No one recognized him, not the prison guards, not the inmates, not even the warden. When Ibrahim Traoré disguised himself as an ordinary prisoner and entered Koa prison, what he would witness shook him to his core. 6 days later, the entire prison system in Burkina Faso would be turned upside down. East of Ouagadougou, surrounded by gray concrete walls topped with barbed wire, Koa prison was the country's most feared institution. Behind those towering walls lay another world, one where laws were meaningless and hope was a forgotten word. On a quiet Sunday morning, as dawn barely broke, the heavy iron gates creaked open. Another prisoner was about to enter. His name was Musa Dio, 38 years old, arrested for a minor robbery attempt. Nothing unusual on the paperwork, but the papers didn't tell the truth. This man was Ibrahim Traoré, transitional leader of Burkina Faso, the most powerful man in the nation, now. Walking as a prisoner into the belly of Koa. Move forward. Hurry up, barked the guard at the main gate. Eyes averted, Traoré didn't protest. He wore days-old stubble, his hair messy, dressed in a faded threadbare shirt and torn pants. Nothing in his posture, speech, or gaze betrayed that he was a head of state. His reason for entering Koa was simple. For 3 months, official reports said all was normal. Conditions were improving, but anonymous letters arriving at Traoré's desk told a darker story: torture, starvation, missing prisoners, mysterious deaths. 2 realities, only one truth, and Traoré could see only one way to find it: by seeing it himself. The first hours were no different than any newcomers. An old stained prison uniform, an empty cell block, the ceaseless shouting of guards. He was assigned to cell block C7, the most feared sector of the prison. He sat on the lower bunk assigned to him. The sheets were filthy, the thin blanket barely a comfort, the pillow as hard as stone. Other inmates eyed him suspiciously. Every newcomer was a threat. "Hey, new guy," growled a large man from the opposite bunk. "How'd you end up here?" "A store robbery," Traoré answered calmly, meeting the man's gaze. "Unsuccessful robbery," he added with a faint smile. "Didn't even have a gun." "Guess luck wasn't on your side," the man said, leaning forward. His name was Bari, the most influential inmate in cell block C7. He ruled the block, deciding who lived and who died. "What about you?" Traoré asked. "What brought you here?" Bari laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Little man, I'm no ordinary prisoner. 15 years, murder, theft, you name it. But my real crime? Getting caught." "What's life like here in Koa?" Traoré asked, his curiosity genuine. Bari's smile vanished. "There's no life here," he said darkly. "Only waiting. Waiting for death. That's all." As evening fell, a new sound cut through the gloom. A weak, painful moan from a bunk. In the corner, Traoré looked closer. A young man, wasted to almost a skeleton, trembled under a fevered sweat. "What happened to him?" Traoré whispered to the inmate beside him. "Gaspar," came the sad reply from an old prisoner. "Beaten by the guards 2 weeks ago. Broken ribs. No one cared. The infection spread." "Doctor? Medicine?" Traoré asked. Laughter, bitter and hollow, answered him. "No doctor here," the old man said. "If you get sick, you either get better or you die. The guards don't care." Morning brought the first shock. Before the cell doors opened, guards entered heading to Gaspar's bunk. The young man lay motionless. "Another one gone," said head guard Bolot, in an indifferent tone. "Get him out!" 2 guards dragged Gaspar's lifeless body like a sack of rice. Routine, as if this happened every day. A fire of rage swelled inside Traoré, but his face stayed calm. A prisoner's anger meant punishment, immediate and brutal. Bolot scanned the cell block, his eyes locked on Traoré. "You, new guy," he said coldly. "You'll be working in the today." The prison kitchen was as dark and grim as the rest of Koa itself. Rotting food, rusted equipment, and desperate prisoners cramped into every corner. Traoré had been assigned to chop vegetables. For hours he worked with dull knives, slicing spoiled produce, his eyes silently taking in everything: the meager food portions, the filthy conditions, the complete lack of hygiene. He leaned toward the old prisoner beside him and whispered, "These vegetables are rotten. How do they expect to make food out of this?" The old man chuckled bitterly. "These aren't for us, son," he said. The prisoners' food is in that cauldron over there. We only get gruel." Traoré glanced toward the corner. A cook was preparing a meal using fresher ingredients. "What's that?" he asked. "The guards' food," the old man replied. "They eat meat. We eat bones. They get bread. We get mold. That's the order here." That night, back in the cell block, Bari was waiting for Traoré. "Come here, new guy," Bari said, beckoning him to a shadowed corner. His eyes were moist, tired. "There's a special room," Bari whispered. "Prisoners taken there either never come back or return as broken men." Traoré listened, absorbing every word. "There's a secret economy here," Bari continued. "Bribes for decent food, bribes for medicine, even bribes just to stay alive. No money, no family. God help you. How long has it been like this?" Traoré asked. "Always," Bari said. "But it's gotten worse since Warden Kabor took over." On the third day, Traoré faced the harsh truth. Another young prisoner died. Like Gaspar, but this time the death came after being taken to the special room. "What happened to him?" Traoré asked Bari quietly as others slept. "Torture," Bari said grimly. "His family couldn't pay a bribe. There are electric shock devices and worse in that room. Can't you hear the screams at night?" Traoré nodded. The cries he'd heard were real. "But why?" he asked. "Why would they do this?" "Money," Bari said bitterly. "Everything's about money. They get a budget for each prisoner from the ministry, but give us almost nothing. On paper, the prison looks perfect. In reality..." Bari trailed off and Traoré's stomach turned. On the fourth day, it was Traoré's turn. Two guards grabbed him roughly and dragged him toward the special room. A kick to his stomach stole his breath. "The warden wants to see you, new guy," one sneered. "Hope you've got a good story." The special room was worse than Traoré's worst nightmares. Blood-stained walls, electric shock devices, baton-like tools lined the corners, and in the center sat a heavy iron chair fitted with handcuffs. Warden Kabor entered, his uniform pristine, eyes cold and merciless. In his hand, he held Traoré's fake file. "Musa Dio. Kabore," Traoré said steadily. "Or whoever you are. I'm just a prisoner trying to survive." "Survive?" Kabore smiled cruelly. "We need money. Family. Friends. Anyone who can help you?" Traoré stayed silent. Bari had been right. This was a racket. Kabore leaned in. "Let me explain how it works here. You either pay or you suffer. Simple." "How much?" Traoré asked. "For someone like you?" "Let's say 500,000 CFA. He tapped the electric shock devices. "More than a year's income for most. Burkinabe. And if I don't pay?" Traoré's voice was steady. Kabore's smile widened, dark and dangerous. "Then the fun begins." "Begins," the warden said, narrowing his eyes. "Trey, I think I have an offer for you." Kabor raised a skeptical eyebrow. "I'm listening." Traoré met his gaze steadily. "Before you beat me, I want you to see who I really am. Maybe then we can come to an understanding," the warden laughed coldly. "Show me. What are you? A lost prince? A secret millionaire?" With deliberate calm, Traoré reached into his pocket and pulled out a small plastic device, a transmitter given by the Secret Service. He pressed a button. "What are you doing?" Kabor asked, surprise flashing across his face. "Calling for help," Traoré said quietly. "And be sure, they're very close." Kabor's smile faltered. "What is this?" he barked. "Guards, take this away." But when the heavy door swung open, it wasn't guards who entered. It was a squad of fully equipped, masked special forces, Traoré's loyal men. "What's happening?" Kabore stammered, stumbling backward. "Who are these men?" he demanded. Traoré stood slowly, his posture shifting, his back straightened, and his eyes blazed with authority. "Warden Kabore, I am Ibrahim Traoré," he said calmly, "and you are under arrest." The shock on Kabor's face turned to horror. His legs trembled as if he might collapse. "Impossible," he whispered. "Warden Kabor," Traoré continued, "I've heard many allegations about you. Torture, extortion, mistreatment, even deaths. Now I've seen it all with my own eyes." Masked guards moved forward to restrain Kabore. He was frozen in shock. But we were just following orders from the ministry, from the government," Kabore sputtered. "I am the government now," Traoré said firmly, "and the only order I gave was for justice and dignity for all Burkinabe." Outside, the thrum of helicopters filled the air. The prison was completely surrounded. "I appointed you prison warden," Traoré said, "but seeing the hell you created, I will now be your first prisoner." Chaos erupted in the corridors. Guards dropped their weapons and surrendered. Some tried to flee, but failed. When the doors of cell block C7 creaked open, the prisoners stared in stunned silence. Traoré entered, flanked by armed soldiers. He carried himself like a true head of state, his posture, voice, and gaze radiating power and resolve. "Bari," Traoré said to his former cellmate, "you were right." Bari's words caught in his throat. "Yes," Traoré continued. "Every story, every warning. It all matters now. The time has come. Time for justice." Traoré inspected every corner of the prison, each scene shaking him deeply. Torture chambers, starving prisoners, brutal conditions. He documented the situation meticulously. Names of prisoners, guards, every atrocity recorded. On Saturday, he gathered everyone in the prison yard, prisoners, guards, and officials alike. A Secret Service agent whispered nervously, "Sir, will there be punishment? Execution?" Traoré shook his head. "No. There will be justice, and justice is stronger than vengeance." That Saturday morning, the sun cast light on the prison yard. Two groups faced each other, weak, filthy prisoners on one side, fearful guards and administrators on the other. Traoré stood in plain clothes, no uniform, with ministers and state officials beside him. "Today," he declared, "Burkina Faso must choose. Will we stand with the oppressed or the oppressors? Are we not guilty if we merely watch injustice as spectators?" Silence fell. Some guards lowered their heads. In the eyes of the prisoners there was both hope and fear. "I am closing Kotoka prison," Traoré announced. "This structure of shame will be no more, demolished," Traoré declared firmly. "And in its place, a rehabilitation center will be established. Warden Kabore and his accomplices will face a fair trial." He paused, locking eyes with the gathered crowd. "And by fair, I don't mean your twisted version of justice. I mean real justice." A guard broke down in tears. Another dropped to his knees. "All prisoners will undergo health checks. The sick will receive treatment. The hungry will be fed, and every single case will be reviewed." Traoré continued. Bari looked at him in disbelief. "Is this real?" he whispered. "Real," Traoré replied without hesitation. "Because Burkina Faso will no longer hide from the truth. We will face our realities." Weeks later, the old Kotoka prison was unrecognizable. Crumbling walls had been torn down, barbed wire removed, replaced by an open campus, a center for education, treatment, and rehabilitation. The infamous torture chamber had become a bright, quiet library. The old kitchen transformed into a bustling soup kitchen, serving healthy meals. In the yard, former inmates from cell block C7 gathered. Among them was Bari, now working as a health officer. "President Traoré is coming today," Bari said, eyes shining with excitement. "We must thank him." When Ibrahim Traoré arrived, he wore simple clothes, just like the day he first came. No grandeur, no pretense. But now, he stood as a true leader, a man from the people who never forgot his roots. A prison system, Traoré told the crowd, is a mirror of the nation. Today, when we look into this mirror, we see pride instead of shame. As he shook hands with former prisoners, tears welled up in someone's eyes. It was Gaspar, now restored to health. "Mr. President," Gaspar said in a trembling voice, "you saved my life." Traoré shook his head gently. "No, Gaspar," he said. "We saved each other's lives. A nation is only as strong as its weakest member." Bari and other former prisoners surrounded Traoré. No one applauds their rulers while standing. Traoré said, quoting an old proverb, "But everyone embraces their brother." That day, in Burkina Faso's most feared prison, an embrace began. A leader embracing his people, a nation embracing its future. The Kotoka incident sparked a major reform movement across Burkina Faso's prison system. Warden Kabor and his accomplices were fairly tried and punished. But more importantly, Ibrahim Traoré's 6 days inside the secret prison sent a message to the entire country. No Burkinabe, not even those behind bars, will be forgotten. Real power, Traoré said in a later interview, is protecting the weak. Real leadership is feeling the pain of your people. And real freedom comes when there is justice for all. This story spread far beyond Burkina Faso, throughout Africa. A story of a leader's hardships, his empathy for his people, and a nation's journey from darkness into light.